Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the iconic Skystriker. This is the first vehicle that we see in the opening of every G.I. Joe episode that we got from Sunbow. The Skystriker, the XP-14F, the combat jet Skystriker, was first released in the United States in '83, and its driver was Ace. It was also sold in '84 and '85, and unfortunately discontinued in 1986. Um, One of the most iconic toys that anybody could have ever had. It was just so iconic to everything. Of course, the F-14 was so very iconic to the U.S. Navy and seen abroad. So, looking here on GIJoe.com, we have a nice front view of it, um, rear view, and of course, you see the lever for extending the wings out as well as putting the landing gear up or down. We have a nice, wonderful side view of it, and another side view. Top view looking down, and we have the nice colors on here. So we have that iconic red, white, and blue here, as well as the American symbol right there. Um, and underneath here, so what we have is we have some couple. I'm going to kind of go off. I think these are long range air to air missiles or air to ship missiles. We have air to air missiles as well, and then we have a nice fuel tank underneath here. So it gives it a little bit more operational range. And then we have another nice ground view of it all. It is just so beautiful and iconic. The plane that changed the world in so many different ways, because when you really look at it, this same frame was used to make our Valkyries in that out of Macross or Robotech, um, as well as being so iconic in just being used for like Top Gun, being used in GI Joe, and so many other ways. Um, to get into doing this as GI Joe in a Star Wars sense, how do we bring this all in here as we click through these wonderful images? Um, and we'll just kind of go from there. And of course, it has the ejection seats here. All right, we're going to kind of stop out of there a little bit, kind of go on here. We have easily missing or broken pieces. Of course, parachutes are commonly missing. Um, the canopy and the two tail fins, the 6 missiles, the 2 seats, and small engines are also sometimes lost. If the 6 missiles or the 2 front Stinger missiles are often found broken, the extra care of the Stinger missiles is really needed. Um, Note that the Skystriker is molded with white plastic that can sometimes become discolored and yellowed, because we always left these out in the sun. We wanted to display them, and they were such large vehicles as well. So, um, it's just some of those things of, as I knew one friend that had one. I don't, I guess he had gotten it complete, but by the time I had seen it, it was already missing some things. Um, but it's just that icon that you just can't miss. Um, and how do we bring it in here? All right, so weight, it comes in at 72,000 pounds. Maximum wingspan or wing sweep is 68 degrees with a 1,544 mile an hour, Mach 2.3 at 60,000 feet, 910 miles an hour, Mach 1.36 at sea level. So the key electronics, of course, we have our fire control radar. I'm not going to read off all the numbered designations. We have our weapons control computer, our radar warning system, deception electronic countermeasure system. Uh, Range is about 2,200 miles. I don't know how close that really is to the actual bird itself. It has one Vulcan 20 millimeter cannon with 800 rounds, which kind of remembering a lot of the stuff from like the old World War II planes and all that stuff. You'd hear, about 800 or 1,000 rounds, and they really equated it down to being about 15 seconds worth of actual trigger time. Um, so really, when you see actual pilots, they do a real quick burst. They don't have a lot of ammo to sit there like we do in video games and just kind of spray the skies. Ordnance, we have 2 Phoenix long range missiles. Those are those 2 big ones underneath. We have 2 air to air, 7 Sparrow missiles, medium range. Those are the other ones. And then we have 2 air to air or air to surface missiles, and 2 AIM Sidewinder missiles. So as we flip this around, and I'm sure that we're going to get it, you can kind of see them a little bit here and there. Okay, so it's saying it's 36 tons. This is our newer version. We'll see what's changed out of this. We have 1,544 Mach 2.3 at 60,000 feet, 910 miles an hour, Mach 1.36 at sea level. So that's all changed the same. Range fully loaded, 2,500 miles. So that's changed a little bit. That's given us an extra 300 miles. Armament, 120 millimeter cannon with 950 rounds. So they've actually upped the rounds. Excuse me. From 800 rounds to 950 rounds. Ordnance, 2 Phoenix long-range missiles. And I want to say that those are those 2 big birds underneath there. We have 2 AIM Mark II Sparrow medium-range missiles that are air-to-air / air-to-surface. We have 2 AIM Mark III Sidewinders and 2 short-range air-to-air missiles. Okay, so that's our 2 air-to-air small short range are underneath here, and then we have 2 Mark II and 2 Mark IIIs on the sides. Of course, it goes through our electronics. G.I. Joe's Master of the Air is an unbelievable, powerful, and dominating piece of machinery, combining the latest in electronics, weaponry, and speed into one single package based on the U.S. Navy's F-14 Tomcat. The Skystriker is an irreplaceable asset to the G.I. Joe team. Its ability to fly multi-purpose missions in nearly any weather condition and sustain heavy damage that would easily cripple any other aircraft is what makes the Skystriker and G.I. Joe team's primary fighter jet. Now, wanting to change this into today's day and age, oh boy, and this is the funny thing when we look at the older cards. So we do have the Gatling gun, nose-mounted radar, portable Vulcan 50 millimeter cannon. So essentially, it's sitting there saying that there is a portable 50 millimeter cannon. That's probably that pod that we see underneath there. That is a very overpowered cannon for a bird like this. Not saying that they wouldn't welcome it in any case. And high strength titanium, boron, epoxy, composite skin. So, kind of going through some of the file cards that we have here. They gave so much, and of course, this is the from the GI Joe trading card game from the second series. We have it in a coloring book, paint by numbers. I mean, you couldn't go wrong with the Skystriker pretty much anywhere. Just being so iconic. And I really want to kind of say that this is probably some of the big reasons why, you get guys that have served in the military and some of the voice actors and all that just never really figured out why it's so iconic to us. Okay, so we have a parachute variation box, and that's the back of it, and it looks like the sides or so. So we do have the Skystriker and the Night Boomer in 1989. So that's different releases. We do have a different box for Europe, Brazil, Japan, and India. So we have the original Skystriker. Here's a Starscream version of the Skystriker. Another Skystriker done in 2011. A black GIJoe Skystriker 2015, and Sky Patrol, which was all silver, in 2016. These were all really kind of neat and wonderful versions. And some of them, I never even knew that they had come out with them during the other times. Of course, dealing with kids growing up and all that stuff. So going from there. Okay, so um, looking at this and how do we put this into our Star Wars here. So this is at Starfighter scale. It is 62.9 feet or 19 meters long. Has a crew of 2, no passengers, although sometimes we see it happen here and there. Cargo capacity, I gave it between the two of them 110 kilograms. Of course, it's going to have full coverage. Now, in my mind, because we're going to continue upgrading this, so I don't care if you want to call it a G or a S or a whatever variant of this. Actually, maybe that's what we should do. We should just call it not the F, but we're going to call it an S, and I'm going to explain why. So, because I gave it a space of 8, I'm going to say that this is meant to be able to be in aerospace, or not aerospace, but my mind is failing me here. Okay, meant to be able to be a starfighter. That's what I'm really trying to go for. All right, so I did give it a maneuverability of 3D. It is a fairly agile craft. Being able to do a multi-vector with the wings helps it in an atmosphere. Reimagining the engines, I think it's going to keep that in space, and I'll explain some of that. Move, we have Mach 2.3. I don't have a space, or I figured that would be good enough. Body strength is a 4D. So we have a heavy repeating cannon, starfighter scale, fire control of 4D. Now, I do want to keep in mind, we have the heads up display here, all that, and I'm being kind of really generous to her because she is a wonderful bird. Doing 5D damage. We also have 8 long-range air-to-air missiles. Fire control is 4D, damage is 7, and 4 air-to-surface missiles, doing 4D for our fire control and 9D damage. Okay, now, no, that's a whole different vehicle there. Now, one of the things I really want to kind of come up with here is if I'm reimagining this and I'm thinking this in a Star Wars term, I'm thinking that this is going to take off very much like what we see with the Y-Wings, the X-Wings, and all that stuff. We're going to upgrade it with the new modern engines, and that's why I'm seeing the XP-14S. Okay, so this is a starfighter being able to have the same type of things that we see from Star Wars. So instead of needing a runway, not saying we're taking that away, because if it takes enough damage and it needs that to be able to land, we'll give it. Saying that, and if we were to grab that technology today, would we still want to keep wheels on there so we could still do a traditional landing? Or would we fully go into the whole Star Wars deal? Now, if this is experimental, which is where the XP comes from, this is a production plane for G.I. Joe with the new technology that will be coming out into regular military forces in the near future, but we're giving it to our anti-terrorist forces that have that same technology we need to be able to rely on. This will now be more of a VTOL as well, but we don't need all the extra jet kind of thrust engines that we see in today's aircraft, most notably like the Harrier, where we have to have those nozzles on the outside to be able to try and lift it up. If you look at the Joint Strike Fighter that has that's meant for the Marine Corps, that actually has the VTOL capabilities, it actually has flaps that open on the top, and then they can actually position the engine down, and it allows it to lift up that way. So, you know, let's just say that we've reimagined this. We want to keep this iconic bird going for as long as we can. It will now have that VTOL capability, and that's where I'm kind of going with this. If I'm going to geek out on it, I want to keep this sucker as long as I can. Let's not make it. Let's make it a pure starfighter, and the same things that we can do with our traditional X wings, B wings, uh, Y wings, all the other stuff. But we're still going to hold over a lot of the stuff that we're used to because that makes it blend in better. We can still do our traditional landings and everything else. Um, so that's my thought. Whether you agree with it or not, let me know in the comments. I think it's a great way to upgrade it, to bring it into our new Star Wars universe, but still hold on to as much of this as we can. Um, when we look at some of the newer aircraft or whatever else, it's not saying that we can't bring those into here, but still trying to keep this iconic fighter going. It's still being used in plenty of other countries because it is so iconic. And even the pilots that had then gone from being an F-14 Tomcat pilot to an F-18 pilot, they realized that the F-14 had filled a bigger niche than what they were able to do. They did upgrade it. The F-14 was a big A as well as an F. So the A for an attack fighter, but also an F for a fighter jet. Um, where the F-18 um, really did a little bit more on the uh, maybe I'm getting this backwards, and I very well could be. The F-18 was, it can attack ground stuff, but really it's more of a fighter jet than it is a ground support because, um, but having a Rio in there, and I think they could actually track up to 15 aircraft at one time. Now, we don't see that in G.I. Joe, but it's still kind of an implied thing, you know. They're doing a lot more dogfighting. It's a lot more showy what we do in GI Joe because of the cartoon and everything else. We're not sitting here destroying everything, and then it's a product of its time. And when you get into the comic book, not that I got a lot of the comics, but everything I've heard about the comics got grittier because they could compared to what we could have on screen. So, still, like I said, it's a wonderful bird. Trying to keep it going as long as we can. Um, what other planes do you think we should really add into there? Do we take the F-35? Do we take the um, F-22 and we add those in there? They're very iconic for today's military. The F-18 is very iconic as well. Um, what do you think we should add in here? Because this list that I come up with, and going through, we're not even halfway through what I've already come up with, not even to say that we grab from other stuff. So always feel free to drop comments and let me know. With that, hope you enjoy the series. It's always fun trying to bring all this stuff to you and show you what we've created. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next